What's conscious, Sneako? Present practice. What is vibing? This is Vish, and today I'll be responding to Sneako's video on how to be happy. Now you all might be wondering, who is Sneako and why am I reacting to him? Well, he's a YouTuber I've been following for the past year or so now, and he has very interesting videos on life and perspectives on life. What I really do appreciate about him is the fact that he's very blunt with his views. Maybe that's a New Yorker part of him. I am from Long Island, New York, so maybe I have a little bit of that too, in terms of being real and just straight up. But yeah, has very interesting videos. I love the creativity he has behind his work. And there are areas though where I feel like I have different views. We usually don't disagree, but there are certain areas too where I do not completely agree with him. And that's where I'll share my views and just share the more, I guess, yogic / wisdom-based view on that. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into the video on how to be happy. I see that merge shout out. I love this intro so far. He makes it very cinematic and creative, and it really captivates the viewer, and it does to me. So let's continue. That's my boy Steezy.
Fuck this shit!
You feel better now?
Feel?
E.
You know, that's a problem.
What?
That's the problem.
E?
With this generation. Oh, check in with your friends. Normalize gaslighting, toxic mental manifesting.
Where?
You're so busy talking about happiness and unpacking trauma. You miss the point.
That you're just supposed to stay out the way, make money, and have...
I can't really tell if he's being sarcastic here or not, but quickly to note, I see where he's coming from. I feel like we all tend to talk so much about these things that we don't be it, and we miss out on life. It's almost like that philosophical question, which is like, what is the point of life? Well, if you keep thinking about that, you're wasting your life. And so I can see what he's saying, but at the same time, I don't think these are necessarily steps in the backward direction. I almost view it as necessary in the process of evolution, with the mind at least, in the sense that by doing these things like checking on your friends or just self-help, yeah, there might be a little obsessive nature or tendency amongst people right now, but it's just a matter of time before people see that as a problem too, and eventually we'll get out of it. So I think it's okay. And it's definitely, I think, better than ignoring issues and being oblivious to life. So anyways, let's continue.
Fun. E. E. It's not working.
Still sad, boy. Still sad.
E.
I asked everyone who knows me as Hubert, my real name, how to be happy. Everyone I asked had a unique response to the happiness question, but they were all boring. So I read this book called Happier, written by the professor who teaches Harvard's most popular class ever, How to Be Happy. And that was boring too. Harvard kids are clearly mid. Overthinking happiness takes away time you should just be spending watching porn. But the book wasn't all bad. I finished it in 2 days. There was one good quote in it. Some philosopher, Henry Socrates, said, "Nothing is inherently good or bad."
Yes, 100%. Eckhart Tolle talks about this too, and he's the spiritual teacher, author of Power of Now. It's not the situation that is what makes you upset, but it's your thoughts around the situation. You see, life itself is here not to make you happy, but it's here to challenge you. And so it all just comes down to perspective and learning to reframe how you view life itself. As he says, there is nothing good or bad. That's such a subjective thing. And so just by learning to reframe your perspective on every small thing, which will eventually be adding up to life itself, you will just be happier. And so I very much agree with this point, so let's continue.
Thinking about it makes it so. And it got me thinking like, yeah, morality is kind of this made up idea by more powerful people so that they can make laws to govern us. And I was thinking like, has anyone else lightened up to murder? No, just no. It used to sound really bad. Now I want to hear both sides. No one else grew up like, Batman may beat people up, but he's a good person because he doesn't kill. Yeah, he puts them in a coma for an eighth. Maybe he should just kill. Or stay home and pay people to because you're a billionaire, Batman. Why are you beating up the perk plug? Where's the mayor? I don't know, Batman. I just want a Marys. I'm a bat! If you murder somebody and get away with it, that's kind of impressive. Don't come near me, but, tell me about it in an 8-part documentary. Wow, you a whole murder.
That was a really interesting excerpt, and I know I'm making a lot of pauses here, but a huge part of that is because of the fact that Sneako has great points, and he speaks quite fast, so lots to unpack. I love that. The way he was able to reframe murder too, which, especially with the moral standpoint that we all tend to have, which is a very bad thing. Now, am I going to agree with how that should be rejoiced and like it's an impressive thing? No, but I do very much appreciate the way he's bringing into perspective such a terrible thing like murder. And so again, this is no endorsement of that, but it's really just an appreciation for the way he's reframing again his perspective on what we view usually as terrible or bad. Let's get back into it.
How to Be Happy is written by a guy that looks like real life Flanders because his problem isn't survival, it's boredom. Self-help books and videos and classes, the whole self-help idea targets bums bored at work or they're jobless bored at home, and reading that self-help book will motivate them enough to go get a boring job. And I'm trashing the book because it's funnier than praising it, but it does kind of break down our most basic necessities to be happy. Passion, financial...
I feel like Sneako tends to make a lot of generalizations and conclusive statements about things that he just might not know. And this is really not to, again, I'm not bashing him, just sharing the different view that I have. But to suggest that people that are into self-help mainly because they're either bored or bored at work or along those reasons, that's quite misleading. A lot of people, including myself, when I used to have lots of anxiety, for instance, a couple years ago, got into self-help because I genuinely needed the help. And I feel like a lot of people are on that wave. I mean, it's not just the COVID pandemic, but it's a mental health pandemic. So, yeah, I don't know. Sure, are there people that are obsessed and overly indulging with self-help and not really being, let's just say, productive members of society? Maybe, sure. But I think that's not a significant amount or even a majority amount. And I could be wrong here too, so I'm gonna open up the platform there. But I just want to emphasize how we shouldn't ignore the portion of people that actually do need the help, that are helping themselves. So, yeah.
Freedom and relationships. Or IG, PPP, and your raw bitch. Now let me summarize a Harvard education in 2 minutes with ad-libs. The whole first third of the book is about why you need to set long-term goals so you could work at something your entire life. Be so busy, you have no time for murder. You need to find your calling, and it can't be too easy because then you'll be 40 with nothing to do, and it can't be too difficult because you'll fail. Work is crucial not just because it's your purpose, but because if you chill too much, you'll get depressed. We don't know how to be useless. Even with financial freedom, abs, and a
Wow, that was a really cool line. If you don't find work or if you chill too much, you will get depressed. This is something I feel like a lot of us can relate to, which is why, again, we just connect with Sneako. And I think it's partially true. If we don't find the true beingness or just the ability to be still or meditative, then yes, you will be getting sad or getting lost with your emotions. But to distract yourself with work and say that work isn't just a purpose thing, but it's to keep you from being unhappy, that is such a band-aid way to go. If we can learn to face our emotions, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work and you should just be a bum. But no, if you are, let's just say, doing less work or you happen to be laid off, sure, spend your time trying to find a new job, but you don't need to spend every waking second with this whole grind, work, do this, do that, this whole doing thing. And it's a doing culture. What I'm suggesting here is that we're losing track of the being, the human being, the beingness that we have within us, which is being still, being meditative, just being one with nature. I mean, just staring at the stars, staring at the trees. I mean, behind me, for example, just being one with nature. It might come off as weird, and I can see where you might be, thinking that this could just be a cuckoo or woo-woo thing to do, but just know and try it out yourself. But when you spend enough time with nature, or you just spend enough time being still, there will be a deeper, more sustainable way to find joy and just be joyful all the time. Instead of covering it up or masking it with work or drugs or partying, drinking, these are all just band-aids. You can do those things, but I think the base of your life should be this beingness or being okay with stillness.
Bad bitch, you can't be in Dubai more than a week before she goes through your phone. I'm not mad, but who's this bitch that keeps, okay then, fuck Dubai, fuck it. We work because our purpose is to contribute. It's like when you see 1,000 ants walking in a single file line, each one carrying a little ant-sized chunk of a leaf, and you're like, oh, that's kind of like how we live in a society. The most valuable currency is happiness. Nothing else should logically come before that. Ants know that, they're literally born and get to the bag. We fucked up.
To say that ants are happy, and again, this is maybe where I'm taking him too literally, and he could just be being sarcastic, but as I've learned from Sadhguru, actually, he's a guru, he's a yogi, he's a mystic and visionary. He talks about how first off, as human beings, we are one of the most complex beings of the planet and intelligent creatures. We have the two greatest tools, which is the imagination and memory, which we are suffering today. We're either stuck in our past or too anxious and worried about the future. The point is, our great strength and power that we have, we're suffering. I really don't think ants have these things. And to be happy, I don't know if they're happy. They're just there. These feelings, I think, are more complex in nature and are created by human beings. So I do want to make that distinction there. But even just moving past that, again, chase the bag or chase the work. I mean, yeah, you can do those things, but again, if your fundamental basis of being is not joy and not happiness, and this is where I guess he's saying the same thing, then you're just not going to be sustainable with whatever you're chasing. And so that's all.
I'm thinking the most important currency is money, power, or fame. That's why Disney stars are heating up spoons. In the book, there was this good example. If you had the option to either take $1 million or have a conversation with a friend, ultimately you should choose the option that makes you happier in the long term. What if the conversation was, hey friend, here's $2 million. You'd be like, oh, that Huber guy was right. The reason we chase money and status is for the hope that it unlocks a little happiness. It's funny how simple it sounds broken down like that. People spend their whole lives chasing what they could just be. Don't chase the bad bitch when it's you the whole time. No amount of success satisfies forever. Long-term serotonin comes from enjoyment in your daily life, helping other people out, contributing to something you believe in, and if studies show anything, it's how obviously we need community to function. It's funny how we all have this common interest of just being happy, but we continue letting our egos in the way. Romantic relationships work when both partners elevate each other. You could both be happy on your own, but when both partners sacrifice and work together, it's likely you'll both be happier than it would be possible without each other. Plus you get ahead. Being that loud, toxic couple, crying, fighting on the sidewalk, it's fun in the moment, but long term, just say sorry. Just stop looking through his phone, bruh. Like, why do you do all that detective work just to make yourself cry, bitch? Like, I swear to God, this bitch is like, she just wants to be mad, bro. If all the world leaders sat down at a table and agreed, yeah, Putin, yeah, other guy, happiness is the most important currency. We would get rid of money, borders, religion, TikTok. Everyone could just run around naked eating berries off the bush. Is that a good place to end it? Wait, what? How is that possible?
That was quite the video, and overall, I very much vibed and connect with it. So, Sneako, thank you so much for sharing this message of how to be happy with the world in such a creative and entertaining way. That's something I am taking notes on, and that's something he's also inspiring me to do with regards to creating this new series of videos. Now, to get into the last bit of the video and then wrapping this all up with just the overall view that I have for what he had to say, I want to first start by saying that, yeah, currency being happiness sounds like a great idea, but how pragmatic is it? How realistic is it? I don't know how feasible that is, because it's easier said than done. Like, just be happy. Sometimes it is, and this is where it can be a little confusing. We tend to overcomplicate life so much with all this jargon and all this just talk and thinking, even, I mean, just overthinking really is a huge root of a lot of these issues, that sometimes you just want to let go of that. But the key here is that to say something like, if world leaders just agreed that happiness was the currency and so on, again, this could be a sarcastic point he's making in terms of how he's trying to represent what he's trying to say. But the point is that, again, it's easier said than done. How do you make that happen? How do you make people actually agree on what is happiness? Because what brings someone happiness here can bring sadness to someone else there. So is it really something that will work? Again, I'm not saying I have the answer, but I'm just posing as an I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. A huge part of what I really resonate with, especially towards the end, is this whole idea of sustainable ways to go with bringing about the happiness. We tend to be so focused, especially this instant gratification age that we live in. It brings you that joy and that feeling goodness for that second, but what's the cost? The cost is that sustainable way to be happy, the deeper sense of joy. And so there's other ways to do that, whether it's working out, whether it's just getting your sleep in. Because what you'll sort of notice is that when you start doing these short-term things, like short-term gratifications, you will naturally start getting desensitized to life itself. You will find it so much harder to appreciate the basic beauty around you, the trees, the grass, the feeling of the sun gazing itself upon you. And you might consider these kind of woo-woo and think of like these people dancing at the sun and doing some rain dances. You don't have to take it that far, but the point is there is so much to appreciate with just the basic isness of life that we're missing out on by getting so impulsively and unconsciously attached to these short-term pleasures. Instead, what I recommend is, focus on, I guess, being, and maybe work can be a method, at least initially, to distract yourself from whatever that is happening that you don't want to do, but it's not a long-term way to go. When you constantly distract yourself, you're just kind of building up the pile of dirty clothes in your closet. You got to eventually do the laundry. And so some tools that I would recommend for you all include doing a gratitude journal, starting your day off with just 7 things that you're grateful for. Will have a huge, profound impact on overall well-being. Meditation, yoga, these are things, especially when properly taught from the yogic backgrounds like inner engineering, which is a program offered by Sadhguru, you will actually notice, and this is a very interesting thing, studies have actually shown that there are literal biochemical markers, and I might be butchering these exact terms because I'm not that familiar with the scientific, but the point is there are markers that show, biomarkers if you want to call it that, where the same feeling of highness that you get from drugs, you will experience that as well with things like certain meditations, and especially this program called Inner Engineering, which is why I'm especially shouting that out, because I have experienced it myself. And so you can literally achieve these other things that short-term pleasures give you, but you will experience it much more deeper and much more longer. So at that point, why would you even do such a thing? If you can literally just be imagined high all the time, wouldn't that be great? However of life you can call it, but like there's an actual highness within your system. There's a difference between thinking that you're high and you're like, I love this, I love that, I love life. Is that really you being high? No, it's you thinking you're high. But to actually experience the high, that includes things like meditation, yoga, and even gratitude, breath work, mantras, all different ways that I'd highly encourage you all to check out. Taking a detox from social media and like drugs and stuff will help your baseline get back to normal. But if you really want to enhance that in terms of just bringing that baseline up where you're at that baseline all the time, that would require these practices like yoga and meditation. So with all that being said, I want to appreciate you all so much for taking this time, and thanks Sneako again for sharing his perspective on how to be happy. Overall, very much agree with most of what Sneako had to say. I'm just here to share this other perspective with the yogic background that I have on other ways to be happy. If you want me to react to other videos of his or other YouTubers that are into topics like life, wisdom, health, wellness, comment those down below. And with that, make a great day, take this joyfully, and stay conscious. Ecstasy.